Welcome back to Manufacturing Mental Health with Marilyn. This is episode number 3. I'm Marilyn Rosa Green, psychotherapist, executive coach, and former manufacturing HR consultant. Today, we're diving into a topic that sparks strong feelings for both leaders and employees, and this is micromanagement. You may have experienced it, you may have seen it, and you may even struggle with it yourselves. In this episode, we'll explore where micromanagement comes from, why it's so damaging, and how you can break free from the pattern. Now, just a quick note, this podcast is for educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional therapy or medical advice. And if you're struggling with your own mental health, please reach out to a licensed professional in your area. And remember, listening here does not create a therapist-client relationship. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's dive in. Okay, so I once worked with a manager who wanted to control everything, every decision. And he thought that if he didn't personally approve every email, I mean, he had to be CC on every email, every report, every small task, the work would just fall apart. I mean, this guy just would not take any PTO. He would just not want to take any time off. He never called in sick. I mean, he was an amazing professional, but he was just so over top, so overly involved. And it was very challenging because he was moving up the ladder. And the more you do, the more strategic you have to be. You have to focus more on delegating and growing your team. And that was just so impossible for him. His team was talented and very capable and experienced, but he was exhausted and frustrated and also disengaged, and so was his team over time. And this is the hidden cost of micromanagement, and that is that leaders trying to hold everything themselves while their teams lose confidence and motivation is the absolute silent killer. The absolute silent killer is the thought that if I do all of these things, we're going to succeed. And if I miss one single detail, everything would fall apart. And the truth is that it's actually the opposite. The more involved you get, the more you are removing that autonomy from them, the ability to make their own decisions, the ability to be okay with failure and rise to the occasion. You're removing all of those opportunities from them. And also the opportunity to create trust, right? Because what you're saying to them is basically, look, if I'm not here, I can't trust you that you're going to be able to get it done. Only my way is the right way. And that is not how you create trust at all. Now, micromanagement is not only an issue in the workplace. I just want to be clear that all these topics that we talk about here in this podcast are always going to be topics that we're going to think about in terms of anywhere in our lives. So, work and personal life as well. And how do we balance the two? So, with micromanagement, perhaps you don't identify yourself as a micromanager in the workplace. Maybe you don't have a team that reports to you, but perhaps you have micromanagement tendencies in your personal life, or maybe in the work that you do within yourself. And it is definitely a problem that affects personal relationships. We may even end up micromanaging our own kids, our friends, even our significant others. And the crazy thing is that we may not even realize that we're doing that. I know there's this misconception, I would call it, or this idea of this visual of when people micromanage, they are control freaks. They're toxic. They're authoritarian. That they're just mean people, like they're narcissist or whatever. And although all of that may be true, in some instances, it is in my experience that only a small representation of micromanagers are actually like that. That in fact, more micromanaging stems from struggling with anxiety. And it is actually more universal than we realize. It's just that you may not identify with being a micromanager, but if we really take a close look at a list of symptoms or behaviors or thoughts that would describe a micromanager, you might be surprised in what you find, which is why I created a micromanager checklist that I work with when I do workshops or when I do coaching. I have people take this assessment, and it's amazing. It's amazing how it reveals that we all have a little bit of work to do in this area because we all struggle with some level of stress or anxiety or fear. And this could be fear of failure, fear, um, of being judged, perhaps a fear of losing control, fear of not being completely like perfect, anxiety of everything has to be right, a little bit of OCD there in the pop culture kind of way. And that if it's everything is not, you know, just the way that you envision it, then it's not right. All this like all or nothing thinking. And this pattern of thinking sometimes comes from not feeling good enough. If I really dig deeper, sometimes we recognize that this incorrect thinking is just that not feeling good enough. And that gets projected, it manifests onto others. So our own insecurities about the fear of failure or incorrect thinking may be us projecting that insecurity onto others by being excessively focused on details and placing high expectations without clear instructions or too detailed about the instructions that we provide and the unnecessary check-ins. Did you get it done? Is it right? Did you do this? How's it going? Are you okay? Those kinds of things. It just makes other people feel like they don't know what they're doing or that you don't trust them. And it's really coming from a place of I just want to make sure it gets done. I will feel relief when I know that everything is running smoothly. I can go home now because I know everything's going to be okay. I don't have to worry. But you are actually worrying and making others worry as well. You're not really creating confidence by doing that, but it's coming from a place of fear. It's not coming from a malicious intent. It's not a malicious intent. Sure, there are truly just all the other negative connotations about micromanagement, but the majority of people struggling with micromanaged tendencies are not bad people at all. We want sometimes as a parent, when we micromanage, we just have this high expectations of our kids, many times because we want them to do better than us. And we know they have the potential and we push them to be better, but we push too hard. We forget that they're only whatever age they're in and they need to figure out how to do it themselves and that the way that they do it is different. It's not the way, say, for example, you're asking them to clean the kitchen and you like it spotless and that's great. But you've been cleaning a kitchen for how many years? It's the way that you do it versus the way that they're able to do it or can do it. Doesn't mean that you can give them instructions or give them feedback or anything like that. Of course, you're teaching them. But the level of expectation when you micromanage, it's so unrealistic and unfair to the capabilities of that person. And you continuously get let down from maybe your kids or your spouse or your friends or whatever, because the way that you would do it makes so much sense. But when other people don't do it that way, it feels like they're letting you down or that they don't really care. And it's not that they don't care necessarily. This makes me think of people in relationships who have certain expectations for the other person. And when they don't meet that expectation, they get really disappointed. But sometimes what that tells that person that disappoints you is that when it's not up to your standards, it's never going to be good enough. So why even try? Why even try if any way they do it is not going to meet your expectations? And that becomes a bit of a vicious cycle there, right? Because you're actually wanting them to try and do better for you, but they've lost the confidence to do it. And so they don't. And the more they don't, the more disappointed you get. And then it just stays in that loop. Okay, just to circle back on the causes of micromanagement or where it comes from. Again, it's from fear. It's fear of failure, fear of loss of control, fear of being judged. And other causes maybe also a lack of trust. It could be a lack of trust in yourself, a lack of trust in the other person, not having clear expectations of what you're supposed to execute or delegate. It could be the entire system around you that doesn't support you to develop that trust or to allow for some failure. It could be an emotional pressure that you feel that you have to do it all because you're a caretaker. You've always taken care of people around you, taken care of business, taking care of everything. And that's just how your brain works. You tell yourself that you have to do it all. And if you don't, it doesn't get done and then it piles up and then you feel more stress. So you micromanage as a response to that. Also the impact because it truly damages your productivity. You become so consumed about all the little details, the possibility of failure, the impact it could have, that pressure that you feel. And a leader feeling like that and behaving in that way affects morale and affects retention. And then what it creates is also a dependency. So people around you, the team, may become dependent on the leader to problem solve. It paralyzes everybody else because they have to wait for your approval. And it stops creativity. People are not going to feel free to say what their opinions are, come up with ideas or suggestions, because there's this stress around, well, whatever I say, it's not going to matter because they're going to come in with their plan and tell me exactly what to do. And that might work for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody. And it's certainly not going to encourage innovation. It's not going to encourage growth and unity. And on a personal level, you think about it in terms of your whole family as a team. Your family as a team. However, your family is composed of, whether you live with a roommate or a spouse or just your kids or parents or whatever it is, it's the same idea, the same thing. Now, to break this pattern, to build trust and to empower the people around you, the only way to do that is to step back. You have to step back and at everything. Look at everything from afar. You're too close to everything. You're way over involved. You need to create some layers of separations here. And you need to start to say no. You're saying yes, you're taking on everything, even what you're not supposed to. Let the other people do whatever they need to do. Nothing is going to fall apart if you're not there. The show will go on without you. It will. And when you step back and reflect, think about the expectations. How aligned are they with the capabilities of the people around you? How fair is it to demand that other people do things or see things exactly the way you see them? Everybody is different. And so they're going to have a different perspective. When you step back and reflect, think about how accepting or not are you of other people? How accepting are you of your own failure? How realistic, how fair are you of expectations of yourself? Perhaps we need to make room for some compassion, some self compassion, and create a system that doesn't become so reactive and so dependent on working under pressure and under this level of urgency that makes everybody so stressed. You want to think about, how can I support everyone's independence? When you look at this from a point of, how can I work myself out of a job? How can I allow everybody to run the household, the team at work when I'm not there? That's the goal there. I want to leave you with practical question. I want you to think about, where in your leadership, where at home or at work, might you be holding on to too tightly? What are you holding on with your bare hands so tightly, so squeezed that it hurts, that you can't even breathe? And just put your fists together and just take a deep breath. Close your eyes, take a deep, slow breath, and just think about, what are you holding so tightly? How can you release control? How can you open up your hands and release control in a way that builds trust instead of fear? How can you just let go of that one thing that you're holding so tightly? If today's conversation resonated with you, I would love for you to share with someone that needs to hear this. Maybe it's someone in your team, a friend, brother, a sister, a neighbor. And if you are really struggling with micromanagement and you would like to get some coaching on this, if you are ready to break down your barriers, rebuild with confidence, I would love to support you. Reach out. If you're ready to take the next step, leave micromanagement behind and free yourself and reduce your stress, I would love to talk to you over a free consultation, just you and I working towards where the micromanagement is stemming from and how can we break free from those patterns. By noticing the patterns and making small intentional changes, you can create trust, empowerment, engagement. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take care of yourself and keep leading with intention.